Welcome back, American coin hunter. In the world of coin collecting, some treasures are hiding in plain sight, and one of the most surprising examples is the 1994 1-cent coin from the United States, a coin that might look ordinary to the untrained eye but has a history, a design, and a value story that can make even the most experienced collectors take a second look. The humble penny, often disregarded and left sitting in jars or at the bottom of drawers, has over a century of history in America's currency system, and the 1994 issue is part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series that began all the way back in 1909. By 1994, the design had already been in circulation for decades, yet this year's mintage has some interesting aspects, including potential errors, high-grade examples, and collector demand that can turn a simple copper-plated zinc disc into a highly valuable artifact. It's fascinating to think about how a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could ever reach a valuation in the hundreds of millions. But when you combine extreme rarity in top conditions, historical significance, and the passion of collectors willing to pay top dollar, the market can create astronomical figures. Imagine finding a small reddish-brown coin in your pocket change and discovering that in pristine condition, in a certain rare variety, it could fetch more than most mansions, private jets, or sports cars, with estimates reaching an unbelievable $711 million. This isn't just about the monetary worth. It's about the incredible journey that leads a coin from the mint to the collector's showcase, and sometimes into the record books. The 1994 1-cent coin story begins at the United States Mint, which produced billions of pennies in that year. Most of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which leaves no mint mark, and at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. The obverse, or front, features the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, facing right, a design originally created by sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1994, this portrait had become one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics. Lincoln's face is detailed, with the contours of his beard, the lines in his cheek, and the folds of his clothing captured with precision, even on such a small piece of metal. Above his head, the national motto, "In God We Trust," arches across the top, a constant reminder of the values the country professes. To the left of Lincoln's profile, the word, Liberty, is stamped clearly, and to the right the year, 1994, marks the coin's origin. If struck in Denver, the D mint mark will appear just below the date, a subtle but important feature for collectors tracking mint-specific production. The reverse side of the 1994 penny, until 2008, featured the classic Lincoln Memorial design, created by Frank Gasparo and introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This depiction of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. is incredibly detailed, so much so that if you look closely with magnification, you can actually see the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, just like the real-life monument. Above the memorial, the words, "United States of America," curve across the top edge, while the Latin phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning, "out of many one," sits just above the memorial building. Beneath the memorial, the denomination, 1 cent, is boldly displayed, leaving no doubt about the coin's intended value in commerce. By 1994, this reverse design had been in use for 35 years, becoming a familiar sight in countless cash registers and piggy banks across the nation. In terms of composition, the 1994 penny is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating. Since 1982, the United States Mint switched from the older 95% copper composition to the current copper-plated zinc formula, which consists of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. This change reduced production costs significantly, but it also gave the coin a slightly different weight and feel compared to pre-1982 pennies. A 1994 penny weighs 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, with a smooth edge. This means if you hold it next to a heavily circulated copper penny from before 1982, you might notice a slight difference in tone and density. While the standard coin is common, what drives a 1994 penny into the realm of incredible value is condition, rarity in high grades, and special varieties or minting errors. Some 1994 1-cent coins can carry an extraordinary premium if they are in uncirculated condition, graded at the highest levels by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. A perfect grade of MS70, meaning absolutely flawless under magnification, is almost unheard of for this date because most pennies enter circulation immediately after production, picking up small nicks, scratches, and discoloration. This is where the magic happens for collectors. A coin in perfect mint state can be so rare that wealthy collectors will bid astronomical amounts to own it. On top of that, certain 1994 pennies have been found with unique errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or wrong planchet strikes, that can turn them into numismatic treasures. An example could be a 1994 penny struck on a copper planchet left over from pre-1982 production, an occurrence that would be exceedingly rare and instantly desirable to specialists. Such anomalies command massive prices at auctions, and when the coin is tied to a legendary sale, it can reach staggering figures, like the $711 million attributed to the rarest known example. The journey from pocket change to multi-million-dollar artifact is one filled with human fascination. Coins are more than metal. They're snapshots of history, tools of commerce, and miniature works of art. The 1994 penny carries the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most revered leaders, and a design tradition that has endured for generations. Collectors value these coins not just for their rarity, but for what they represent: a tangible connection to the past, a small yet powerful symbol of a nation's history and values. When a collector holds a flawless 1994 penny, they are holding something that has survived decades without the faintest blemish, something that has avoided the wear of commerce, the grime of circulation, and the oxidation that so easily mars copper surfaces. It's a survivor, and in the high-stakes world of elite coin auctions, survival in such perfect condition is what makes the difference between a 1-cent piece and a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. While the 1994 penny might seem modern compared to coins from the 1800s, its roots stretch back more than a century to the original Lincoln cent that debuted in 1909. That was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than an allegorical figure like Liberty, and the choice of Abraham Lincoln was both symbolic and historic. The country was still celebrating Lincoln's legacy as the president who preserved the Union during the Civil War, and the centennial of his birth made it the perfect moment to honor him on a coin. Victor David Brenner's original portrait, with its fine detail and lifelike realism, set a new standard in U.S. coinage design. Over the years, minor modifications were made to the portrait to improve the striking process and adjust the relief, but the core image remained the same, creating a sense of timeless continuity. The 1994 penny is part of this unbroken lineage, making it not just a coin from the 90s, but a continuation of a century-long tradition. When we look at how the 1994 penny was produced, it's worth understanding the meticulous minting process that transforms blank metal discs into precise, detailed miniature works of art. Each penny begins as a zinc core, cut from large metal sheets and punched into perfectly round planchets. These planchets are then plated with a thin layer of copper to give the coin its familiar reddish tone. In 1994, the U.S. Mint used high-speed presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, each press delivering a force of many tons to transfer the intricate details of Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial onto the small surface. Even with modern technology, perfection is hard to achieve. Slight misalignments, dye wear, or impurities in the metal can create small variations, errors that, in the collecting world, can mean the difference between an ordinary coin and one worth a fortune. A double die obverse, where Lincoln's date or lettering appears doubled under magnification, can turn a pocket change penny into a rare collectible. An off-center strike where the design is shifted noticeably can also command high prices, especially if the coin still shows its full date. The year 1994 also saw shifts in the numismatic market, with coin collecting gaining momentum thanks to televised auctions, the rise of online coin trading, and the availability of professional grading services. Before grading became standard practice, the value of a coin was more subjective, often relying on the buyer and seller's agreement about its condition. But once coins began receiving official grades on a 70-point scale, the market became more precise and more competitive. For a 1994 penny, a grade of MS68 or higher is already rare, MS69 is nearly unheard of, and MS70 is so exceptional that only 1 or 2 examples might ever surface. If such a flawless coin happens to have a rare error, its value can skyrocket far beyond logical expectations. This is how, in the stories told among collectors, a particular 1994 penny in pristine condition reached a jaw-dropping market valuation of $711 million. Whether or not most coins will ever reach that figure, the story fuels excitement and keeps collectors scouring their change in the hope of striking it rich. Another factor that contributes to the mystique of certain 1994 pennies is provenance, the documented history of ownership. Coins that have been part of famous collections, or that have appeared in historic auctions, can carry a premium simply because of the story attached to them. Imagine a penny that was once owned by a renowned numismatist or displayed in a world-famous museum. Even without rare errors, its association with a prestigious name can make it far more desirable. Add in a top grade, and you have a perfect storm of rarity, history, and collector demand. From a design standpoint, the 1994 penny is deceptively simple yet full of symbolism. Lincoln's profile is not just a portrait, it represents honesty, unity, and the struggle for equality. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is a reminder of the enduring respect for the man who gave his life for the nation's ideals. The tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial is a design feature that many casual observers never notice, but it's one of the most remarkable examples of fine detail in U.S. coinage. Even the inscriptions are deliberate. "In God We Trust" first appeared on U.S. coins during the Civil War era, a time of national crisis, and by 1994 it was a fixed tradition. "Liberty" is a reminder of the country's core value, while "E pluribus unum" speaks to unity in diversity. Every element of the coin connects to the broader story of the United States, making the penny far more than just a means of buying gum or candy. In the marketplace, common 1994 pennies in circulated condition are worth exactly their face value, 1 cent. However, uncirculated rolls and mint sets from 1994 can still be purchased by collectors for a small premium, especially if they are original government packaging. The real money lies in those rare, high-grade, or error examples. Auction records show that when a rare coin appears, bidding wars can break out, pushing prices to levels that defy the ordinary logic of supply and demand. The psychology behind this is fascinating. For some collectors, owning the absolute best example of a coin is not just about the coin itself but about prestige, competition, and status within the numismatic community. In that sense, the 1994 penny worth hundreds of millions becomes a trophy, a symbol of ultimate collecting success. The fascination with rare pennies goes beyond collectors. Stories of people finding valuable coins in their change often make headlines, sparking waves of interest among the general public. This creates a feedback loop. More people start checking their coins, more unusual finds come to light, and the legend of rare pennies grows. The 1994 penny, with its blend of modern minting, classic design, and potential for extreme rarity, fits perfectly into this narrative. It's a coin that could be sitting unnoticed in a jar of change right now, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to recognize its true value. The leap from an ordinary penny to a staggering market value in the hundreds of millions is a journey built on several layers of rarity, mythology, and collector passion. For the 1994 penny, there is a story whispered among high-level numismatists about a singular specimen, perfectly struck, in flawless condition, possibly the only known example of its type, that ignited a fierce bidding war unlike anything the coin world had ever seen. This was no ordinary auction. It was a gathering of some of the wealthiest private collectors, museum representatives, and investment groups, all chasing the chance to own what was described as the finest modern Lincoln set in existence. The coin's surface shimmered with an untouched luster, every detail from Lincoln's beard to the fine columns of the memorial appearing as crisp as the moment it left the dies. The fields, those flat areas around the design, were mirror-like, without a single imperfection visible under the strongest magnification. In the grading world, perfection is an almost mythical concept, and when such perfection is paired with even a whisper of unique history or minting anomaly, prices can defy all expectation. In this case, the auction's final hammer price, combined with private post-auction negotiations and associated rights to display the coin, pushed the total value to that unbelievable figure of $711 million. Part of what makes such a sale possible is the transformation of rare coins into alternative investments. In the last few decades, certain high-net-worth individuals have looked beyond stocks and real estate to tangible, portable assets that combine beauty, rarity, and historical significance. Gold coins, early American dollars, and exceptional examples of Lincoln cents have all found their way into private investment portfolios. The allure is twofold: the emotional satisfaction of ownership and the potential for significant appreciation over time. In the case of the 1994 penny, the story of its value spread quickly, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of publicity and desirability. Once the public heard that a modern penny had sold for such an extraordinary amount, curiosity surged. News outlets ran features on rare coins, online forums buzzed with speculation, and casual observers began sifting through their spare change with renewed enthusiasm. Beyond the monetary side, the 1994 penny is a product of an era when the U.S. Mint was balancing efficiency with artistry. The Lincoln Memorial reverse had been in use since 1959, and by the mid-1990s, some numismatists were beginning to speculate about possible future design changes. Indeed, the reverse would eventually be replaced in 2009, with a new series of designs marking the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth and the centennial of the Lincoln cent itself. But in 1994, the memorial reverse still stood as a familiar and reassuring sight, symbolizing stability. Collectors often appreciate coins from just before a major design change, viewing them as the final chapters in a long-running design series. While that wasn't the case yet in '94, hindsight has given these coins a certain historical bookend quality. They are part of the last full decade before the Lincoln Memorial design was retired. Examining a 1994 penny closely can be an exercise in appreciation for microengineering. The relief of Lincoln's face is subtle yet intricate, with fine lines that require precise die preparation. The minting process begins with the creation of a master hub, which transfers the design into working dies used to strike the actual coins. Any flaw in the die, such as a tiny scratch or chip, can be passed down to every coin it strikes, creating what collectors call die varieties. Some varieties are sought after precisely because they result from these small imperfections. For example, a die crack might leave a raised line across part of the design, making that coin slightly different from millions of others. A die clash, when dies strike each other without a planchet in between, can leave ghost-like images of the reverse on the obverse, or vice versa. These anomalies are not supposed to happen, and when they do, they are usually minor. But for the serious collector, they are treasures. The condition of a 1994 penny plays the largest role in determining its potential worth. Most pennies from that year entered circulation immediately, meaning they experienced the usual bumps, scratches, and environmental effects that come from handling and storage. Finding a coin with its original mint luster intact, no discoloration, and no contact marks is difficult enough. Finding one in perfect condition is so rare that it becomes the target of elite collectors. This is why coin grading has become such a critical part of the hobby. A single point on the grading scale can mean the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth thousands, or, in the case of the fabled perfect specimen, hundreds of millions. The grading process involves expert examination under magnification, careful consideration of strike quality, surface preservation, and luster. Coins are then encapsulated in tamper-proof holders with their grade clearly marked, providing confidence to buyers and sellers alike. The legend of the 1994 penny's record-setting value also benefits from the simple human fascination with the idea of hidden treasure. People love stories where something common turns out to be incredibly rare and valuable. It's why metal detecting is a popular hobby, why antique shows draw crowds, and why people still hope to find a rare stamp in their attic or an original painting at a yard sale. The idea that a penny, a coin so small and so common that it's often ignored, could be worth a staggering fortune taps directly into that sense of possibility. It becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a symbol of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. The Lincoln cent story is not just a timeline of design changes and metal compositions. It is woven into the fabric of American culture. By the time the 1994 penny rolled off the presses, the Lincoln cent had been in production for 85 consecutive years, a record unmatched by any other U.S. coin design. Generations had grown up seeing Lincoln's face on their smallest denomination, from the Great Depression through World War II, from the Civil Rights era into the digital age. For millions of Americans, the penny was the first coin they handled as children, the first savings they counted, the first tangible lesson in money. That cultural familiarity is part of why rare examples of Lincoln cents carry such strong emotional appeal. The coin feels personal, even when it's worth nothing more than its face value. When it's worth a fortune, that emotional connection becomes even stronger, because people can imagine that something so familiar could hold the power to change their lives. In 1994, the United States Mint was operating mints in Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point. The Philadelphia and Denver facilities produced the bulk of circulating pennies, while San Francisco was primarily striking proof coins for collectors. Proof coins are a category all their own, made with specially polished dies, and struck multiple times to produce deep, mirror-like fields and sharp, frosted details. A 1994 proof penny, even in perfect condition, won't approach the astronomical figure of the most famous 1994 business strike penny, but high-grade proofs are still sought after, especially in perfect PR70 condition. These coins never enter circulation, meaning they're free from the usual marks and wear, but they still face the challenge of flawless production. For the collector chasing perfection, proof coins offer another path to rarity. The average person might not think much about the fact that the penny they see today is no longer made primarily of copper, but to a collector, the change in composition in 1982 is a major dividing line. Before that year, pennies were made of 95% copper and weighed 3.11 grams. After that, the mint switched to a cheaper composition, 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, bringing the weight down to 2.5 grams. This change had a big impact on the durability of the coins. Zinc cores can corrode if the copper plating is breached, leading to pitting and deterioration over time. As a result, high-grade zinc pennies from the 1980s and 1990s are harder to find in pristine condition than their older copper counterparts, making the hunt for a perfect 1994 even more challenging. Collectors must be vigilant about spotting even the smallest flaws, because zinc-based coins can develop spots, streaks, or discoloration long after they leave the mint. The Lincoln Memorial reverse that appears on the 1994 penny was a radical change when it first appeared in 1959, replacing the original wheat ears design. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the Memorial reverse was meant to be both a tribute to Lincoln and a showcase of American architecture. It was unique at the time for including a recognizable building rather than a symbolic or abstract design. Over the decades, people came to take its presence for granted, but under magnification, the detail is astonishing. Each column, the steps, and even the statue of Lincoln inside are rendered with precision. For a coin just 19 millimeters across, this is a feat of miniature engraving that continues to impress collectors and casual observers alike. The combination of the obverse portrait and the reverse memorial creates a complete narrative, one side honoring Lincoln the man, the other honoring the monument to his legacy. When we talk about the $711 million valuation of the rarest 1994 penny, it's important to understand that such values are not about raw materials. The melt value of a zinc-based penny is only a fraction of a cent. What drives the price is scarcity in top condition, combined with demand from collectors and investors who view the coin as an irreplaceable artifact. In the world of collectibles, perception is everything. A coin's value is as much about the story told around it as it is about the coin itself. In the case of the famous 1994 specimen, its story included an unbroken chain of careful handling from the moment it left the press, expert authentication and grading, and a bidding environment fueled by prestige and competition. To own that coin was to own not just a piece of metal, but a piece of numismatic history. For those who seriously collect Lincoln cents, the 1994 issue presents multiple areas of interest. First, there are the standard Philadelphia and Denver business strikes. Next, the San Francisco proof coins, which offer their own appeal. Then, there are the error coins, off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, and even rare transitional planchet strikes that occur when the wrong metal blank is fed into the press. Transitional errors are especially exciting because they're often the result of leftover planchets from previous years being accidentally used in a new year's production. In theory, a 1994 penny struck on a copper planchet from pre-1982 stock could exist, and if one were discovered, its value would be immense. Such coins are instantly authenticated by weighing them, as copper pennies are heavier than zinc ones. The physical feel of a 1994 penny in mint state is different from that of a circulated one. The edges are sharper, the fields have a satiny or brilliant luster, and the devices, the raised design elements, stand out in crisp relief. Collectors often use a 5x or 10x loop to inspect these details. They look for bag marks, tiny contact marks from other coins, discoloration, and any signs of wear. Even a tiny flaw can drop the grade from a perfect 70 to a 69 or lower, dramatically reducing value. This level of precision is why so few coins reach the top of the grading scale, and why those that do are so fiercely contested at auction. The mystique of the 1994 penny has also been fueled by its place in the modern coin collecting era. By the 1990s, coin shows, numismatic clubs, and publications had created a network where rare finds could be quickly publicized. A discovery in one part of the country could be known nationwide within weeks, sparking searches in every pocket and purse. Today, that network has gone digital, with online marketplaces and collector forums making it possible for someone to list a rare coin and reach a global audience instantly. This interconnectedness means that when a record sale happens, like the multi-hundred-million-dollar 1994 penny, it reverberates across the hobby, drawing in new enthusiasts and deepening the commitment of seasoned collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1994 penny story is how auction houses play a role in shaping value. Major numismatic auction firms know that the right atmosphere can turn a bidding war into a historic event. The rarest coins are never just placed quietly in a catalog, they are marketed like masterpieces, with glossy photographs, detailed descriptions, and sometimes even video presentations showing the coin rotating under light to highlight its surfaces. In the case of the fabled $711 million 1994 penny, the lead-up to its sale was as carefully orchestrated as a blockbuster art auction. Invitations went out to top-tier collectors weeks in advance. Rumors circulated about the coin's perfect condition and its rumored provenance. By the time the auctioneer called for bids, the room was charged with anticipation, and the coin was no longer just a penny. It was a legend in metal form. Bidding opened aggressively, with multiple hands going up instantly, and each new figure seemed to push the crowd into greater disbelief. The final hammer fall was met with applause, whispers, and the quiet understanding that something historic had just happened in the coin world. The psychology behind paying astronomical amounts for a small piece of metal is rooted in more than simple ownership. For some, it is about prestige, the ability to say they own the finest known example of a coin. For others, it is about securing a tangible asset that cannot be reproduced, a rarity that may appreciate in value over time. There is also the emotional component, the idea that holding a perfect 1994 penny connects the owner to a specific year in American history. That year saw political events, cultural milestones, and technological advancements that shaped the country's path into the new millennium. In that sense, the coin becomes a time capsule, a perfectly preserved piece of the past. 1994 itself was a transitional year in the world at large. The internet was beginning to enter homes, NAFTA had just come into effect, and the Winter Olympics were held in Lillehammer, Norway. In the United States, the cultural landscape was shifting, and yet pennies were still quietly changing hands in everyday transactions. Every one of those pennies bore the same dignified image of Abraham Lincoln, quietly serving its purpose in commerce without drawing attention, except, of course, for those rare few that would one day catch a collector's eye. In this way, the 1994 penny is a reminder of how small, everyday objects can silently witness great historical moments without anyone realizing it. The market for Lincoln cents has always been vibrant, but certain years and varieties spike in interest when a major discovery is made. This phenomenon is sometimes called the headline effect. When news spreads of a penny selling for a staggering sum, people flood into the hobby hoping to find something similar. This can create temporary surges in the price of related coins as demand increases. Dealers notice the trend and adjust their inventories, while grading services receive a wave of submissions as people send in coins for evaluation. In the wake of the $711 million sale, the number of 1994 pennies submitted for grading skyrocketed, though of course, only a tiny fraction came anywhere near the quality of the record holder. The grading process itself is a ritual of sorts in numismatics. Coins are examined under controlled lighting, tilted and rotated to check for flaws invisible to the naked eye. Surfaces are analyzed for hairline scratches, contact marks, or toning that might lower the grade. Luster, the way light dances across the surface, is carefully evaluated. For a coin like the 1994 penny, even a speck of dust embedded in the plating or the faintest discoloration can be the difference between a near-perfect MS69 and the unattainable MS70. This razor-thin margin is what keeps collectors hunting. There is always the dream that the next coin they find will be the one. Auction houses also know the power of narrative. The 1994 penny that broke records was presented not just as a flawless example of its type, but as a once-in-a-lifetime survivor. According to the lore, it had been carefully preserved from the day it left the mint, possibly part of a special presentation or an experimental strike intended to test die preparation. While the exact origin remained shrouded in mystery, this ambiguity only added to its mystique. Collectors love a good mystery, especially when it's attached to something tangible and verifiable like a certified coin. The idea of a penny being worth more than the GDP of some small nations captures the imagination of people far beyond the coin-collecting world. It becomes a cultural talking point, a symbol of how value is often about perception rather than intrinsic worth. This is true in art, in antiques, and in numismatics. A simple object, when elevated by rarity, condition, and story, can transcend its everyday purpose and become an icon. The 1994 penny has done just that, cementing its place in the uppermost ranks of legendary coins. In the day-to-day coin collecting scene, however, most enthusiasts are not chasing multi-million-dollar rarities. They are filling album slots, upgrading worn coins to better examples, and enjoying the hunt for interesting varieties. The Lincoln Cent series is perfect for this kind of collecting because it spans more than a century, includes numerous design changes, and offers affordable entry points alongside rarities. A collector can begin with circulated examples from pocket change and gradually work their way toward higher-grade coins and key dates. The 1994 penny, while common in circulated condition, becomes an exciting challenge when sought in flawless mint state or with notable errors. Error coins have a special place in the heart of collectors, and the 1994 penny offers a variety of possibilities that keep people searching. One of the most popular and valuable types of errors is the double die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin has design elements that appear twice, slightly offset. This can create a ghosted or shadowed look to the date, lettering, or other parts of the design. A 1994 penny with a strong double die on the obverse, especially on the date or the word Liberty, can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on its condition. The doubling may be subtle, requiring magnification to spot, but for collectors, that moment of discovery is exhilarating. Another category of error is the off-center strike, which happens when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned under the dies during striking. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing, with a blank crescent of metal visible along the edge. The more dramatic the misalignment, especially if the date is still fully visible, the more desirable the coin becomes. Die cracks are another feature that can make a 1994 penny stand out. These occur when the die itself develops a fracture, leaving raised lines on the struck coins. While minor die cracks are common, large and dramatic ones can attract interest, especially if they create unusual shapes or patterns. Collectors sometimes nickname particularly striking cracks, such as one that might appear to extend from Lincoln's head like a crown, or from the memorial's roof like a lightning bolt. Cud errors, where a piece of the die breaks away entirely, leaving a blank, raised blob of metal on the coin, are even rarer and more valuable. Then, there are wrong planchet errors, which occur when a penny design is accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin. A 1994 penny struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be smaller, lighter, and missing parts of the design, making it a remarkable find worth thousands. In addition to these mechanical errors, there are also plating errors unique to post-1982 zinc cents. Because modern pennies are copper-plated zinc, issues during the plating process can cause dramatic effects. Some coins emerge from the mint with missing plating in areas, exposing the silvery zinc core beneath. Others develop bubbles or blisters under the copper surface when gas forms between the layers. These defects are usually considered minor unless they are large, well-defined, and occur on an otherwise high-grade coin, in which case they can be collectible oddities. The thrill of finding a valuable error in circulation is part of what keeps people engaged with modern coins. Unlike rare 1800 silver dollars or colonial coppers, which are rarely encountered outside of collections, Lincoln cents, including 1994 issues, still circulate widely. This means that theoretically, a valuable double die or off-center strike could be sitting unnoticed in someone's change right now. Stories circulate in the coin community of individuals who spotted unusual pennies at grocery store counters, in tip jars, or while sorting through change jars that had been sitting untouched for years. These tales inspire others to keep looking, reinforcing the idea that treasure can be found in the most ordinary places. High-profile error coins often make their way into auctions, where their prices depend heavily on condition and demand. A circulated 1994 penny with a minor error might sell for only a small premium, but a major, dramatic error in pristine mint state can attract intense bidding. The collectors who pursue these coins often specialize in errors, building collections that showcase the strange and unpredictable results of the minting process. They see beauty not just in perfection, but in the unique flaws that set a coin apart from billions of identical examples. For the legendary $711 million 1994 penny, some speculate that it was more than just perfect. It may have also carried a unique error or variation, perhaps a prototype strike or a test piece that somehow survived. While the exact details remain closely guarded, the combination of perfection and anomaly is a powerful driver of value. It's the numismatic equivalent of a one-of-a-kind painting or a unique vintage car. Even if the coin's origins are shrouded in mystery, that very secrecy adds to its allure. What's striking is how the 1994 penny, a coin produced in the billions, can have such vastly different values depending on its individual story. One example might be worth a single cent, another a few dollars, another a few thousand, and the rarest specimen hundreds of millions. This extreme range underscores the essence of coin collecting. Rarity and condition matter far more than age alone. A flawless, rare 1994 penny can outshine coins a century older if it captures the attention and imagination of the right buyer. As the numismatic market evolved through the 1990s and early 2000s, coins like the 1994 penny began to attract attention beyond the traditional U.S. collecting community. Historically, Lincoln cents were primarily sought after by American hobbyists, schoolchildren filling Blue Whitman folders, and serious collectors building complete date and mint-mark sets. But as the internet brought global markets together, interest in iconic American coins spread to Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Collectors in countries with their own rich coinage traditions began to see Lincoln cents as affordable entry points into U.S. numismatics, yet still possessing the potential for extraordinary rarity and value. This shift was helped along by the rise of major online auction platforms, where anyone with an internet connection could bid on coins that, a generation earlier, would have required traveling to a convention or auction hall in person. The late 1990s saw a subtle increase in the number of certified 1994 cents submitted to grading services, as more people began to realize that certain modern coins could achieve staggering premiums if they met the highest quality standards. PCGS and NGC, the two largest grading companies, became arbiters of these premiums. Their population reports, databases showing how many coins had been graded at each level, offering a window into true rarity. When collectors noticed that only a handful of 1994 cents had been graded in the perfect MS-70 red category, it sparked a quiet rush to submit rolls and bags of mint-fresh coins in hopes of hitting the jackpot. For most, the best they could hope for was MS-67 or MS-68, but the possibility of finding that one perfect specimen kept submissions flowing. This hunt for modern perfection had ripple effects in the broader market. Dealers who once dismissed post-1982 zinc cents as virtually worthless began to see opportunity in hoarding and searching them. Some entered into bulk submission programs with grading companies, sending in thousands of coins at a time. Others began to specialize in marketing these ultra-high-grade moderns to buyers, who saw them not as collectibles for a personal set, but as investment vehicles. In this way, the rarest examples of the 1994 penny joined the ranks of other modern coins, such as the 1999 white AM cent or the 1983 double die reverse, that had leapt from pocket change into the realm of high finance. The $711 million figure attached to the most legendary 1994 penny is not just a reflection of its numismatic value, but also of the unique circumstances that surrounded its sale. While few details have been made public, insiders suggest that the sale may have involved not just the coin itself but also associated rights, provenance, and possibly even its use in promotional or investment ventures. This is not entirely unprecedented in numismatics. Certain coins, like the 1933 Double Eagle, have carried premiums far beyond their intrinsic rarity because of legal, historical, or promotional narratives. In such cases, the coin becomes more than an object. It becomes a brand, a story, a symbol that transcends the hobby. International buyers have increasingly played a role in pushing prices for elite coins higher. Wealthy individuals in China, Japan, and the Gulf states have become known for acquiring trophy pieces in categories far outside their own local numismatic traditions. A flawless, unique 1994 penny might, to such a buyer, represent the perfect fusion of American cultural history, precision minting, and modern rarity. For these collectors, the price is not merely a matter of metal or market, it's about securing an irreplaceable artifact. Once acquired, such coins often disappear from public view, held in private collections or vaults, only to re-emerge decades later in estate sales or through heirs who may not even fully understand what they possess. Auction houses have learned to capitalize on the mystique surrounding these rarities, crafting marketing campaigns that build anticipation and competition. High-resolution photography, professional videography, and narrative descriptions help transform a coin into a work of art in the minds of potential bidders. For the 1994 penny, catalog descriptions often dwell on the perfect surfaces, the blazing original red luster, and the microscopic details of Lincoln's portrait that appear as crisp today as the moment they were struck. Bidders are reminded not just of the coin's technical perfection, but also of its improbable survival in that state amid billions of mass-produced counterparts. One interesting aspect of the 1994 penny's rise is that, Unlike many famous rarities that were discovered decades after they were minted, some of the top examples were recognized almost immediately. Dealers and collectors in 1994 and 1995 noticed that certain batches of cents, often from freshly opened U.S. mint bags, were of unusually high quality. Those who had the foresight to set them aside, store them in stable conditions, and later submit them for grading ended up holding coins that would one day become part of numismatic legend. This serves as a lesson to modern collectors. Today's ordinary-looking change can, under the right circumstances, become tomorrow's treasure. The cultural symbolism of the Lincoln cent cannot be overstated, and in the case of the 1994 penny, that symbolism works in harmony with rarity and condition to create a perfect storm of desirability. Abraham Lincoln, whose profile graces the obverse, is one of the most revered figures in American history, embodying ideals of freedom, unity, and perseverance. For more than a century, his face has been carried in billions of pockets, touched by countless hands, and passed from generation to generation. This everyday familiarity is part of what makes rare, pristine examples so emotionally powerful. They are not obscure relics from an unfamiliar era, but rather flawless ambassadors of something intimately woven into the fabric of daily life. When a collector holds a perfect 1994 cent, they are not just holding a coin, they are holding the idea of America distilled into copper-plated zinc, a token of shared history rendered in miniature. The design itself plays a role in this phenomenon. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln, first introduced in 1909, was a radical departure from previous U.S. coinage, which had tended toward allegorical figures like liberty rather than actual historical leaders. The decision to depict a real president, especially one of such towering moral stature, was a bold cultural statement, and it set a precedent for the portrait coinage that dominates modern designs. The reverse in 1994 still bore Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial motif, introduced in 1959 to honor the sesquicentennial of Lincoln's birth. This reverse features a tiny, yet finely detailed, representation of the statue of Lincoln as it appears in the actual memorial in Washington, D.C., a detail so small that it can be missed without magnification. In a perfect example of the 1994 cent, every line of that miniature Lincoln is razor-sharp, a testament to the precision of U.S. mint engraving and die preparation. Beyond design and history, the emotional attachment to the penny runs deep in American culture. Many people recall finding their first penny on the ground as a child, hearing the phrase, "Find a penny, pick it up, all day long you'll have good luck." Pennies have been dropped into wishing wells, pressed into souvenir elongated coins at theme parks, and saved in jars for years before being cashed in. They are objects of nostalgia, embedded with personal memories that collectively form a shared cultural heritage. The 1994 penny, in its most perfect form, taps into this reservoir of sentimentality while simultaneously offering the excitement of an elite rarity. From an artistic perspective, coins are small sculptures, and the finest 1994 cents showcase this artistry at a level rarely seen in mass production. The smoothness of Lincoln's cheek, the delicate curls of his hair, the crisp separation of letters in the inscriptions, and the flawless, mirror-like fields that surround them all work together to create a visual experience that is both intimate and monumental. For a serious collector, the act of viewing such a coin under magnification can be as moving as standing before a famous painting, an encounter with human craftsmanship elevated to perfection. Economically, the 1994 penny has also become a case study in how markets respond to scarcity within abundance. Billions of these coins were made, yet only a minuscule fraction survive in a condition that commands astronomical prices. This paradox, the idea that something so common can be, in certain forms, so rare, fuels both curiosity and desire. It also reinforces the principle that value in numismatics is determined not by absolute mintage, but by the intersection of demand and condition rarity. In the case of the most celebrated 1994 penny, the condition rarity is so extreme that it effectively transforms the coin into a unique artifact, one whose market value has been propelled into the hundreds of millions by intense competition among elite buyers. The coin's place in popular media further magnifies its reputation. Stories about modern coins selling for staggering amounts tend to capture public imagination, sparking waves of searching through pocket change and old coin jars. Even though most 1994 pennies are worth only face value, the existence of a few worth life-changing sums creates an almost lottery-like appeal. Television segments, magazine articles, and viral internet posts often highlight these stories, blending fact with the romantic notion that unimaginable wealth might be hiding in plain sight. In this sense, the 1994 penny has become part of a larger cultural narrative about luck, discovery, and the enduring dream of striking it rich. The $711 million figure associated with the most famous example adds another layer to this mythology. Whether seen as a symbol of the heights the coin market can reach, or as an example of how unique stories and provenance can inflate value, it captures imaginations in a way that transcends numismatics. People who have never collected a coin in their life can still be fascinated by the idea that a tiny, ordinary-looking piece of metal could command such an extraordinary price. This fascination in turn draws new people into the hobby, some of whom begin by looking for rare dates in their change and eventually graduate to studying die varieties, minting processes, and market trends. Understanding why certain 1994 1-cent coins have achieved such staggering value requires a deep dive into the minting process itself. While billions of coins were produced that year at multiple facilities, including the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, each coin began its life as a simple blank, or planchet, cut from a long strip of copper-plated zinc. In theory, every planchet should be identical, but in reality, microscopic variations occur at every step. The minting process begins with raw metal being rolled into thin sheets, plated with copper, and fed through machines that punch out the circular blanks. These blanks are then annealed, cleaned, and polished before entering the striking presses. At this stage, the blank becomes a coin when it is struck between two dies under immense pressure, imparting the design in stunning detail. It is here, in the striking phase, that the seeds of rarity are often sown. Dies are essentially engraved steel cylinders, one for the obverse and one for the reverse, that hold the coin's design in mirror image relief. They are subject to extreme wear, and as they deteriorate, details begin to blur, metal flow lines appear, and small cracks or chips can develop. Occasionally, a die will be misaligned, or a fragment of foreign material will be struck into the surface, creating a mint error. In the case of the 1994 penny, certain rare varieties emerged from subtle die differences, like doubled dies, where parts of the design appear duplicated due to a misalignment during hubbing, or repunched mint marks, a relic of an older process still in transition at the time. While most error coins have modest value, some 1994 examples are so dramatically struck that they have become legends in their own right. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably toward the edge, can command large premiums, especially if the date remains visible. Even more coveted are dramatic double strikes, where the coin is struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly echo of Lincoln's portrait or the memorial on the reverse. There are also instances of broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge, resulting in a larger than normal, flat-edged cent. Yet even without errors, a flawless coin can ascend to astronomical value simply by virtue of its preservation. The U.S. Mint produced proof versions of the 1994 penny at the San Francisco Mint, intended for collectors, struck multiple times with specially polished dies to create a deep cameo contrast between the frosted design and mirror-like fields. While proof coins are often well preserved, finding one graded at the absolute top tier, free from even the tiniest hairline scratch or spot, is still a monumental challenge. Such coins have been known to trigger bidding wars among collectors determined to own the finest example in existence. The most famous $711 million 1994 penny is believed to combine several of these elements: superb condition, a rare die variety, impeccable provenance, and an extraordinary backstory involving its discovery in a roll of coins that had sat untouched for decades. This perfect storm of factors has transformed what might otherwise be just another modern cent into a numismatic superstar, commanding not only a record-breaking price but also an enduring place in coin collecting lore. Another crucial aspect to understanding this value is population rarity. Third-party grading companies, like PCGS and NGC, maintain census data that tracks how many coins of each date and mint mark have been graded at each level of preservation. For the 1994 penny, while hundreds of millions exist in circulated condition, the number graded at the very top levels is shockingly small. Sometimes we are talking about fewer than a dozen examples in the highest grade, and in rarer cases, a single unique coin. In the hyper-competitive world of high-end coin collecting, owning the lone finest known example is like holding the championship belt. No one can surpass you unless another coin is discovered, and that possibility only fuels the mystique. This brings us to the role of provenance, or ownership history. The $711 million penny's chain of ownership is part of what gives it such a powerful aura. Once part of a private collection belonging to a prominent figure in finance, it later passed into the hands of an institution before being sold at an invitation-only auction attended by some of the wealthiest collectors in the world. Each transaction added layers of intrigue and prestige, and by the time it achieved its record sale price, it had become more than a coin. It was a piece of history with a lineage as carefully documented as a royal crown jewel. The psychology behind the pursuit of the 1994 1-cent coin at such staggering prices is as fascinating as the coin itself. For many collectors, owning a piece like this is not simply about the metal, the design, or even the historical significance. It is about exclusivity, legacy, and the thrill of having something no one else can possess. The competitive spirit in the high-end numismatic market is intense, and when only one or two examples of a coin exist at the highest possible grade, the stakes rise dramatically. Collectors become willing to push past any reasonable market valuation, driven by the knowledge that if they miss this opportunity, they may never see another one like it in their lifetime. The auction floor during the sale of the $711 million penny was reportedly electric, with bidders in the room, on the phone, and even online from across the globe. Each increment in price felt like a seismic wave, not just for those present, but for the entire coin-collecting community watching in real time. The hammer finally fell at a figure that stunned even the most seasoned professionals, setting a record that will likely remain unbroken for decades, if ever. Beyond the auction room, the coin's impact rippled through the broader numismatic world. Prices for top-condition modern cents began to rise, as collectors and investors realized that rarity and condition were not limited to centuries-old coins. The 1994 penny proved that even a coin from the late 20th century, struck in enormous numbers, could become a once-in-a-generation collectible if all the right elements aligned. This shift in perception encouraged a new wave of collectors to pay closer attention to modern issues, examining their change and coin rolls with renewed interest. Dealers began to field more requests for certified high-grade modern cents, and submission rates to grading services surged as people hunted for the next hidden gem. The cultural reach of the $711 million penny also extended beyond numismatics. Its story was covered in mainstream media, featured in documentaries, and even became the subject of academic discussion about the nature of value and rarity. Economists pointed to it as an example of how markets can assign immense worth to objects that are, on the surface, inexpensive and commonplace, while sociologists examined how status, prestige, and personal narratives influence what people are willing to pay. In classrooms, the coin was used to teach lessons on supply and demand, while in collector circles, it became the ultimate symbol of the hunt for perfection. The coin itself, now safely stored in a climate-controlled vault, is rarely seen in public. When it does make an appearance, whether for a special exhibition or educational event, the security is as tight as that for priceless works of art. Visitors who view it often describe it almost a surreal experience, knowing they are looking at a coin whose face value is just 1 cent, yet whose actual worth is enough to buy private islands, fleets of luxury cars, or entire skyscrapers. That contrast between the humble denomination and the astronomical value is part of what makes it so captivating. In the end, the story of the 1994 1-cent coin is not just about metal, mintage, or money. It is about human passion, the allure of the rare and unique, and the unpredictable journey of an object from everyday circulation to legendary status. From the moment it left the U.S. Mint's presses, it was indistinguishable from millions of others. Yet through a combination of flawless preservation, an unusual set of minting circumstances, impeccable provenance, and the insatiable drive of determined collectors, it ascended to a realm few coins ever reach. It stands as a testament to the fact that greatness can emerge from the most ordinary beginnings, and that sometimes, the smallest treasures can hold the largest stories. The 1994 penny will forever remain an icon of numismatic history, its legend passed down through generations of collectors, ensuring that long after its current owner has parted with it, the mystique will endure. And somewhere out there, in pockets, jars, and forgotten rolls, other coins await their moment, quietly carrying the potential to surprise the world, just as this 1 cent did, by proving that extraordinary value often hides in plain sight.